Welcome to Our Community, Our Money, the entrepreneur in you. My name is Jermaine Washington, and I'm your host. Today's show is about the power and diversity of the greater Houston economy. Today's discussion will also focus on how increased collaboration will give us an advantage. This will be a very informative show and a great resource for entrepreneurs and students. I would like to welcome Ned Mueller to our show. He's the entrepreneur in residence at Southeast College. Welcome, Ned.
Thank you very much for having me on, Jermaine. I'm glad to join you.
Thank you for being here today. So, today's show is about the power and diversity of the Houston economy. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'd be glad to. Certainly, a lot of us will admit that it is a very powerful and diverse economy. And when we talk greater Houston economy, it isn't just City of Houston or Harris County, but it also involves a lot of the surrounding counties, sometimes going down as far as Galveston, Fort Bend, and out towards the Katy area. A lot of people don't truly understand how diverse the economy is, and a lot of that's because of the size of the geographic area that we live in, and a lot of particular industries and businesses tend to cluster in certain areas. So out west you have Medical Center, the eastern part you'll have the Ship Channel and the Petrochem Corridor, and various areas. So a lot of times folks on the west side don't know what's going on the east side, and north and south, in almost any area we talk about.
So how can the power of us collaborating help the economy grow even more or be a benefit to our entrepreneurs?
Certainly. What's happening now in industry and businesses is we're going from a vertical, more of a stovepiped economy. So for instance, if you were in the oil and gas industry or you were in maritime, that was typically the only areas that you dealt with. And what is occurring now, and this is occurring at an ever increasing frequency, and the business cycle is shifting faster and faster, and it's going towards a flatter, more horizontal economy and structure. And so now you see industries that never used to work together or collaborate, or you see multidiscipline projects where it requires people who know geophysics, folks who know mechanical engineering, people who know digital technology and data management. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing that happen across the board more and more frequently, and that's where collaboration is essential.
So explain a little bit more about that vertical versus horizontal situation that you're referring
Certainly.
to.
I can give you some examples. For instance, if we talk out west, we talk the Medical Center, which of course is the largest medical center in the world. They see 3,300 patients a day. If you talk about downtown, that's where a lot of corporations are headquartered. That doesn't even include all the small businesses, and we'll talk figures about those a little bit later. If you go out along the 225, 146 corridor, what you see is the Port of Houston, significant maritime facilities. You also see the Petrochem corridor, and typically north of 225 you'll see the major businesses. South of 225 you'll see all the vendors that go underneath all the overpasses and supply those businesses with products and services. And then of course you have what's called the tertiary economy, but that's the hospitality industries and like lodging, restaurants, and a lot of those others. So what you see is all of this happens across the town. We also have Museum District. We have Johnson Space Center, which actually is not only just Harris, although it's located in Harris County, it also goes south down to Galveston County. So those are just some of the examples of what's happening, and we're seeing increased collaboration among all those disciplines.
So the vertical is what was happening in the past,
yes.
And now you're seeing more of a horizontal shift,
Yeah.
So they're more collaborating with each other.
Exactly. The vertical is an example. The Medical Center would stay within the medical center. Oil and gas would stay within, and now they're starting to go across.
I see. And so what else would you like our viewers to know about the economy and the surrounding areas that you think would be, very powerful for them to be a part of?
Interesting statistic I read just within the last couple of weeks. Year over year, the number of jobs in Houston increased by 11%. That is a significant jump. Right now, especially for technical or skilled jobs, which just aren't four-year degrees, but also a lot of things like welding, CNC, numerically controlled machinery. They're running short on workers right now, so there are plenty of opportunities out there.
The 11% job growth, what do you think was the overwhelming factor that has helped such a major shift?
Well, it's a number of things. It's always been a really helpful business environment. Texas, as a state, is one of the better business environments in the union among all 50 states, and a lot of it is in particular in the Houston area, because of the increase in trade. Right now, the Port of Houston is the largest break bulk terminal in the world. It's the fourth largest port in the United States. And a lot of that is also due to the Panama Canal expansion, which was completed sometime around 2016. So we're getting greater tonnage up there, and it's also an advantage for shippers because it's cheaper to do it by ship, and that gives them access to not only the central part of the United States, but also as far up as Canada. The other thing that's happened is a lot of the liquefied natural gas facilities, those used to be offloading facilities where we get liquefied natural gas and heat it up to its normal gaseous state. But those now have been reversed, where they are taking things that are coming from United States wells and production areas and converting them for export. As a quick example, gas per billion cubic feet, typically in the United States, runs somewhere around $3.30 per billion cubic feet. You ship that over to China, and it's $13 per billion cubic feet. You ship it over to Europe, especially Northern Europe, you can sell it for about $10 per billion. And those are round figures. They obviously aren't the latest today, but that gives you some idea of the magnitude.
Wow, that is so interesting. So the fact that the United States and particularly, I think Texas have started producing a lot of their own oil. Is that part of the growth, or is the oil industry basically not a factor?
No, the oil and gas industry is a big factor. The other thing that we're seeing, a big factor, is plastics around the world. There will always be a demand for that. And in fact, we've seen billions and billions of dollars in construction going up to build new plastic producing plants.
When we return from our break, we will continue this conversation about Houston's dynamic economy and the many areas of opportunity that is available to entrepreneurs. Also, I want to remind everyone to check our Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program under the Entrepreneurial Initiatives Department, who will be having new cohorts in 2019. You can get all of the information on this program at our website, which is hccs.edu/smallbusiness. This program continues to move forward towards its goal to help 10,000 small businesses. See if you qualify. We will be right back.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Did you know that Houston Community College has the largest enrollment of online community college students in the United States? Hi, I'm Paul Calhoun. The HCC Online College proudly enrolls over 20,000 students. We offer more than 30 online degree and certificate programs, as well as online student services, including admissions, advising, counseling, and technical support. HCC Online College, anywhere, anytime. For more information, visit our website, hccs.edu/online.
I don't know an industry today that doesn't rely on some amount of coding to run their business. Coding is the 21st century equivalent of the English language. And our particular flavor of this is the iOS Coding and Design School. And Apple's been very supportive and in fact joined with us to roll out the start of this Swift programming initiative So it's a great opportunity to combine creativity with science and technology, contributing to this app economy.
HCC. So many classes, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Welcome back to Our Community, Our Money, the entrepreneur in you. I would like to welcome back Ned and continue our conversation, but now we're going to move on to talk about the Port of Houston. Now, I understand that it's one of the biggest ports, as you mentioned in our earlier segment, but why is it such a gold mine of opportunities for our entrepreneurs?
A lot of it's due to the port itself. And by the way, the Port of Houston is one of about 27 different terminals on Galveston and Trinity Bay. So it's a huge maritime power all around, and a lot of folks don't understand what a maritime power Texas is.
I'd love for you to explain that.
That's what we're here for. The Port of Houston itself actually has 3 different major terminals. It has the Port of Houston, which handles both bulk tonnage. So an example of that would be bauxite, coal, other areas that are basically loaded dry into the holds of the ships. It has break bulk, which includes items, cargo that is already in containers, not shipping containers, but boxed and otherwise packaged. And then you have 2 major container terminals, and that is Barber's Cut and Bayport. And that all of that stretches as soon as you head out on 610 to 225 and going eastbound. It all stretches all the way out to 225 until you get to 146, and when you go south on 146, all the way down almost to Clear Lake area on there. And what you do is you see that and observe some of the activities. It's also what makes the port so effective is it also has a lot of different modes of transportation. So you're able to go from maritime. It has direct access to the rail yards and the rail system, so it ships by rail. And as I talk about this, maritime is the cheapest way to ship cargo. That's why it's in 80% of cargo and goods that go around the world, 80% of them go by sea. And then when you get to the rail, that is the second cheapest way of getting things from point to point. And then it's surface transportation, and then it's aviation. So we have maritime, we have rail, we have areas that we put shipping containers on trucks, and you'll see a lot of truck traffic on that corridor. And then again, we also have access to one of the few cities that has 2 international airports in the United States with Bush Intercontinental and Hobby. So there's a way to get to any of those.
So how should our small business owners leverage those type of opportunities? A lot of people don't know about those type of opportunities and how they can make a business out of that.
As the entrepreneur in residence, that's one of the things that myself and my colleague, Brenda Rios-Brombacher, are working on, is to how do we bring that together? In particular, when we look at East End, Edo, areas like that in the Houston area and other underserved communities, when we look in the southeast, they're juxtaposed right next to the shipping corridor and the petrochem corridor. So how we get those people, as they're educated and as they get older, are ready to participate in that workforce. And a lot of it requires technical skills. Also, as I mentioned, I think prior to the break, you also have the tertiary economy. So where you see that, you see you have to feed and house and clothe people on there, so that also helps the economy.
Right.
And that's more of the small business entrepreneurial.
So you and your colleague, Brenda Rios, also my colleague, at the Southeast Campus, you're trying to figure out how to leverage all of those opportunities and bring ideas to small businesses over at Southeast. What are some ways that you are doing that to bring in this big economy and the Port of Houston and all of these things right now?
A couple of different initiatives, actually. Brenda and I are both members, board members, not board members, but committee members for the East End Chamber of Commerce. We serve on the Ambassadors Committee, and we also serve on the Economic and Business Development Committee. We do direct outreach to the community at large and also the businesses. And we also actually reach out to the educational system. High school, middle school, even as early as elementary school, because some of those skill sets that are required for the economy and to take advantage of the jobs available are built back in elementary school. For instance, math with 10-year-old fifth graders on there. And then middle school, we also hold a Girls in STEM event, and that's where you're still choosing a path. High school, we've done things like participate in mock interviews, and there's so a lot of interface, and we're also sit on a lot of economic councils that combine the community and the school system.
Right. Well, I understand that Southeast focuses a lot on welding and logistics and material science. How does those type of careers play into opportunities that could help them possibly in the Port of Houston and the general economy?
Yeah. Welding is an example, not just the port, but also the petrochem corridor. With the right kind of training, proficiency, right kind of certificates, and welding can be an extremely lucrative business. And by lucrative, I mean you can house and feed your family well and get them a decent education. Right. And in fact, in terms of one of the most common types of entrepreneurs I see are a lot of welders that are up and down 225 with flatbed trucks or pickup trucks with Lincoln Electric machines on the back. And they independently contract, and especially in turnaround season, the petrochem corridor, you'll see those folks up and down 225 all the time. Same thing with material science, pipe fitting, corrosion, other things like that, which are, people don't think of it a lot, but those are critical to any sort of industrial application. On their logistics, one of the forward developments now, and one of the most common types of technology that people are using, especially in international maritime logistics and supply chain, is blockchain management.
Is there anything else you would like our audience to know about all of these interesting topics you're telling us today that we haven't hit on?
Yeah, just real quickly, I want to reiterate, M&G Bank recent statistics say there are 38,000 businesses in the Houston area with revenues between $2 and $10 million. There are 2,800, less than an order of magnitude, with revenues over 10 million. So when we talk about small business, when we talk about entrepreneurial initiatives, that's exactly the number we're talking about.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ned, for all of this valuable information that all of our viewers out there will be able to use, and our students now know where they can take their classes to the next level.
Thank you.
So, the Entrepreneurial Initiatives Department has so many unique areas under its department to reach students, communities, and entrepreneurs. The Corporate College is in partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission. They provide funding opportunities through the Skills Development Fund and the Skills for Small Business program that can be used to train employees. This information can also be found on our website at hccs.edu/smallbusiness. You should definitely check it out. We will be right back.
HCC. So many locations. So little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
I've seen people's lives change just by attending a class at HCC.
Some of them might not have the financial means to go to a four-year university. That doesn't make them any less quote-unquote smart than the kids who go to a four-year school.
HCC is easy to get to. It's easy to apply and easy to become a part of.
It gave me so much confidence.
Once you finish your 2 years there, you can transition into a four-year university or go into the workforce.
It's affordable, it's accessible, it changes lives.
We have academic programs that help students get from high school into a university. And the data is very clear that students that take the path of a community college finish in far higher numbers than students that start straight into a university experience. Our students can achieve a baccalaureate degree in multiple fields from the universities in the area without ever leaving Houston Community College.
In this segment, we will be speaking to Mr. Frank Obeng, a Hubert H. Humphrey Fellow working with the Entrepreneurial Department. He will tell us his story and how Houston Community College is helping him reach his goals. Hello, Frank. Thank you so much for being on the show and welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you for hosting me.
You're welcome. So please tell me a little bit about your background, who you are, and how you came to Houston Community College.
I am a Ghanaian, and I work with the Ghana Export-Import Bank, which is the Ghana equivalent of the U.S. Exim Bank. I'm here in the U.S. for a one-year fellowship, the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship. And I'm currently attached to the Question Business School at the Boston University.
Wow. So how did you meet Meyer De Novo and start working with Houston Community College? How did that come about?
Well, as part of the fellowship, every year, currently we are about 150 of us in the U.S. on the fellowship. And every year, 10 people are selected out of these 150 and attached to different community colleges. It's as part of cultural exchange. So I was selected. I was lucky to be selected from Boston. And so between 23rd and 30th of March this year, I came to HCC, and then I had interaction with Maya, and I learned about some of the entrepreneurial initiatives that are being undertaken. I realized that they are of interest to my project that I wish to implement when I go back home. So I decided to interact with her and request that I come to do what we call professional affiliation, which is a part of the fellowship. And then she agreed. That's why I'm here.
Well, speaking of the fellowship, tell me about how the fellowship came to be. How did the Hubert F. Humphrey Fellowship start?
Well, the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship was established in honor of the former Vice President Hubert H. Humphrey. We know that he was a public servant, recognized domestically and internationally, and so this was to honor his legacy as a public servant.
Okay. And how do you become a fellow? What is the process to become a Hubert H. Humphrey?
Well, the Humphrey Fellowship is for accomplished young and mid-career professionals from emerging economies like Ghana. And so normally you'd have to apply to a Fulbright office in your country or the U.S. Embassy in your country. It goes through a rigorous process of interview and all that, and then shortlisted applicants are forwarded to Washington, D.C., and then the board of directors sit on it and make the final decision, and it's communicated back to the embassies, and then it's communicated back to the applicant.
Interesting. So is it based on having high grades? Is it based on your story from where you come from?
Well, it's got various components. First, you have to have worked for at least, have some work experience, at least 2 years. You have to have had at least a first degree, an undergrad. You have to be an undergrad at least. And then you have to show commitment to public service. You know, it's very crucial. It's an integral part because that is what we are trying to honor Humphrey with. And so you have to demonstrate that. And then apart from that, of course, there are a lot of people. In fact, I understand that there were over 5,000 people that applied and 150 were selected. So it's a very competitive fellowship. And so you have to really demonstrate that you have public service at heart. That is integral and is critical.
Well, speaking of public service, you're now here at Houston Community College. You're working with our department. What have you been doing so far since you've arrived?
Great. First and foremost, one of the primary objectives for coming here was to understand some of the business entrepreneurial activities that are being undertaken by the Entrepreneurial Initiative Office under Maya. And like the Goldman Sachs 10,000 business and then the MBDA. And so that is to help me to develop my business, the project I want to implement back home when I get back in June. Besides that, I have also been working with Brenda and Ned that just left. We've been visiting some of the high schools, helping take mock interviews and then helping to assess, these high schools. Some of them have to do a presentation on their projects, and we help to assess. And so these are some of the community actors. And back in Boston, for example, I volunteered a lot for what we call the prison books, prison books program, where we read letters that prisoners have written to the program. It's a non-governmental, it's a non-for-profit organization. And then the kind of book they have requested, we package it and then we make. So I've done quite a lot, coming by way of community service. And then, of course,
So you mentioned that you're learning all of these things and working with these different departments to help your public service part of the fellow, but also, what are you going to do when you get back to your country? You say you got a project that you're going to be working on. What kind of project is it?
Well, as I said earlier, I work with the Ghana Export-Import Bank, and I'm in charge of business advisory services, mainly focusing on small businesses. And what I realized since arriving in the U.S. is that the drive for entrepreneurship is up there, you know. And so as soon as I came, I decided to focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. And so I took some courses at the university, but I think that I need to immerse myself into the programs that are being implemented to help, entrepreneurs, like I've mentioned already, the Goldman Sachs, the MBD, and SBDC, and all that. And so what I'm doing, that I'm practically learning how they are designing the program, how they are implementing it, how they are engaging the community, the high schools, the elementary schools, and the graduates, and be able to imbibe into them the culture of entrepreneurship. It will interest you to know that, by and large, in my country, the mindset is when you finish school, what you do is you go and look for a job. But I think that it's time for us to begin to change that mindset. It must start from, using the elementary, high school, and the graduates.
So you're taking a lot of things you're learning from our department, and you want to take it back home and implement it in your own country.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Wow. So what is one of the first programs you're thinking about implementing? More so the Goldman Sachs? Is it the MBDA? Working with the high schools?
Well, there are two projects I'm currently working on. The first one is that I want to contribute to developing the entrepreneurship ecosystem within the Ghana. And so my plan is that when I go back, I will facilitate the establishment of a startup accelerator within the bank. And to this end, I took what we call professional affiliation with an organization known as Mass Challenge in Boston. Mm-hmm. And Mass Challenge is a global entrepreneurship facilitating organization. They have offices around the world. And so I'm linking Mass Challenge with my bank. And so as part of that, a 5-member delegation from the bank are visiting Mass Challenge in Boston in the first week of June. Mm-hmm. To see if we can have some partnership going forward so that we can be able to establish this accelerator within the bank. So that is the first project I'm running. And then there's also another project I'm trying to implement, and that is what I call Global Knowledge Initiative Forum. And this is basically to help engage the youth, at the high school level, teaching them about building their capacity in entrepreneurship, innovation, design thinking, and all that. So basically, these are the two main projects that I wish to implement for now.
You have a lot of information. I love it. I wish I had more time to go over this, but thank you so much for being here and telling us all about everything that you're doing. So I would like to thank all of my guests today, Ned and Frank. Houston Community College's entrepreneurial department is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs reach their goals, regardless of what phase you're in. Thank you all for watching Our Community, Our Money, the Entrepreneur in You. See you next time.